Hello and welcome to Think Outside the Box Office podcast, where today we're talking about a segment called the Carpenter Hour, where we'll focus on John Carpenter movies and different things of the same vein here and there as we go forward. Today we're talking about The Fog, and I have my two co-hosts here just telling me what they think about it. First things first, what are your guys' first impressions of this 1980s classic from John Carpenter himself?
So this is your first viewing, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the first time I've watched it.
I'm interested to hear what you have to say, man.
Same.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I was a little bit nervous going in. Sometimes it seems like movies from the 80s just are a little bit slow, and the limitations with like the effects and the visuals and stuff. Sometimes it bounces me right off, but this one was able to keep my attention, and I actually thought it was a lot creepier than I thought possible. Like due to the subject matter, I was like, I don't know how this could be scary at all.
That's a good point. I've seen it many times. So I think like any film kind of loses the creepy factor, but the idea of the fog is still, like when I see fog, this is where my head goes. I'm like, I'm next, obviously. They're after my chump change,
Right.
For
and
real.
my non-leprosy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have tall Blake coming after you.
Big Blake.
What about you, Derek?
I remember I think I caught it on TV one time, man, and it hooked me from the get-go. I like the eeriness, I like creepiness. John Carpenter with his score is amazing. Like he did great with it, bring that eeriness. Plus stellar cast. It's a fun ghost story, which is I think what is the big appeal for it. Like it's creepy, but it's not over the top like horror or like gory or anything. So it's like a nice smooth ride, but I really enjoyed it, man. Like he did a really stellar job.
Yeah, you mentioned the score. I watched it, well, at least the beginning with my wife. She actually fell asleep, but she had made mention that they were ripping off Halloween with the music, and I was like, well, it's the same exact
Kinda the same
director,
dude,
same
yeah.
same person doing the music. There's a reason
Yeah.
they sound similar.
That's like one of his many qualities is that writer, director, score, probably occasional actor, like Bennett and whatever. It's insane that he's that talented, and they're not like B movie flops. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
It's strange. A lot of his films actually, like, even though they came out when they did in the 80s at the height of horror and everything else, like some of his movies kind of took a slump for some reason. Like they just didn't appeal to people at the time and stuff and became like sleeper hits, like to the cult status later on in life, which is awesome because it's good that he got the recognition that he did. But he definitely shows a lot of his flair in a lot of his movies too, which stands out. So
is he the master of horror?
I would almost say so because most other horror franchises or anything else horror based, it's either multiple people working on it, like directors, actors, stars, whatever the case may be, or it is just one dude trying to steamroll the whole thing. And with him, that's kind of the case. He just started dominating everything that he could with some of his storytelling. But again, he definitely didn't get the recognition that he was due. Like The Fog, The Thing, even his non-horror movies like They Live and such, like great, amazing. So I definitely feel like Master of Horror, he's a close freaking second.
He's got
Like
to be in the
easy.
conversation, right?
He's at
Yeah,
least a
like
contender.
I almost don't even know if like he might be one of the best directors of the 80s. I would say, like at least in the pantheon of Spielberg's and such. But
He had a sweet run for like through the 80s and then through the 90s of shit.
yeah,
Like Halloween in 78, Fog in 80, The Thing somewhere right behind that, Christine right behind that. And then his 90s stuff, with, I think They Live is like 88 or whatever, but, Escape from New York. I'm missing one in there too that he did.
yeah, he's done a ton. Prince of Darkness was in the 80s.
There it
Big
is.
Trouble in Little China, one of my favorite like little campy action movies.
In the Mouth of Madness, is that the other one?
Yeah, that's one in 96.
Okay.
And then
I haven't seen a lot of his 90s work.
Ghosts of Mars and stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another one.
Village of the Damned. Did we say that already?
That's a good one.
Oh, that's another good one. Yeah,
A lot of his movies I haven't seen, if I'm being honest.
They're
Yeah,
definitely
I
they're
kind of
definitely
lack
really
when it
good.
comes to like 80s stuff. I'm not as versed.
he's
Yeah.
got a cool catalog of shit that really, if they didn't achieve that fame then, like the cult status behind him, like you mentioned, is pretty rad.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dude. It's also strange. The guy just wanted to make westerns. He's a big western fan. Like he was a big like John Wayne and like kind of rough and tough, kind of like cowboy type of moviegoer. And so that's what he kind of wanted to base a lot of his movies on. But they took such different paths, and they turned out great as much as they were. And some of his movies still has the western influences, like his vampires movie, and
Oh yeah, that's one. Good call.
I would I would definitely say like I think Escape from New York's kind of like a western too, so that's kind of interesting. But
Did
yeah,
he ever actually direct any westerns?
no, not that I know of. He
No,
always wanted to, he just never did.
I wonder why he never. You think you get big enough, you make enough hits that they just let you make whatever you want.
he
Oddly
probably
enough,
has. And they were like, "Nah, keep doing what you're doing."
like even with the Halloween franchise, after he sold the rights, he didn't get like any royalties or anything for it until like much later in life. They kind of like back paid him for it, but he also I think he just he's working on a video game, or a video game's coming out soon that he's working on. It's called Toxic Commando. Looks pretty wild, but man's keeping busy even at his age.
He's also got he's part of Storm King Comics with a girl named Sandy King, and he's got like it's like a one series is like Tales of a Halloween Night, which I have one issue of, and then he's got Tales of Science Fiction, which I have an issue of. I actually just read his Halloween Night, the first one, Halloween Night comic the other night. It was all right. It's got a couple different writers on it, but it is cool to see that he's involved in different medias and not just, especially after like the slum that they kind of end up on. I think the last feature film he did was called The Ward, which was 15 years ago with
Yeah.
It seemed
Amber
like that
Heard.
didn't get very good
Yeah,
ratings.
it's one of those like Masters of Horror type movie, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Amber Heard in it, who was obviously super popular at the time and not so much now.
Super mid anyways, but
Yeah,
Kind of ruined her whole legacy.
yeah. So real quick,
Oop.
what's the fog about? What's the plot?
So The Fog is about I don't know if it's Southern or Northern California coastal town that is celebrating their 100th anniversary, but little do they know that their 100-year anniversary comes along with a curse. And so within, I think it's by the time the clock strikes midnight of the anniversary, like a fog rolls in, kind of starts messing with the town and starts going after, I don't want to say certain people, but definitely goes after a certain group of the actors, and they're in for a spooky ride, man.
So the town. So we're introduced to the movie with a ghost story around a campfire,
Yes,
which is
which
it's a
go on.
weird. It's something that's kind of sticks out in hindsight because it's not something that's ever revisited. It's just that one. Like if you miss that campfire story, you'd be fine with the rest of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I
there's enough
doesn't double
exposition.
back or build off of that.
I actually watched it. So I watched it once at home, and then I watched it again just on my phone as I was going through the day, and I just skipped that whole first scene on my second viewing
It's easy to
because I really
forget.
just wanted to get to the meat of the movie, and I was like, okay, I get it. It's nice. It adds some ambiance,
Yeah,
But you're right. You're totally right. It's not 100% needed. I think it was actually added
I also think it was
after the
a
fact.
reshoot.
Yeah, I guess his first cut was rough cut was only like 88 minutes, so he wanted to add some stuff, and that was one of the scenes. I like it. I really dig it. I think it's like it sets the mood. Like the old guy at the campfire telling the old ghost story. All the kids are huddled around. They're all locked in. The music's playing. I like it. It's a really good scene. But like you were saying, Nick, like you can skip it. It wouldn't be a problem. So
I maybe would have appreciated it more if because they're there till midnight. So immediately after
yeah,
the town starts like breaking.
Right.
Maybe if we had seen like the fog way out in the distance, not necessarily coming towards them, but like letting you know it's on the way outside of the next shot or next couple shots of it coming in or whatever. But it doesn't. It's strictly just a clean campfire story. That's all of like 3 minutes long, and then we are introduced to Antonio Bay. So
yeah,
so that we talked about the town starts breaking. So midnight to 1 a.m. is the witching hour, as they say. It doesn't take the fog being there to do for this town. It's not like it's setting in on all
No.
these locations. And so it's like a weird sort of just a supernatural element that I'm going to probably pick on a couple of times in this.
Mm.
Because it's like sometimes the fog has to be there to like shut down the Jenny or, you know what I mean? To like on the boat or whatever, all this stuff. But it doesn't have to do that for everything. And it's a weird discrepancy that you have to kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually noticed the same thing. It seemed like there were no rules when it came to what the fog was capable of and how, like you said, the proximity it needed to be. Like I kind of understand the like electronics going haywire. It's like ghost, EMF. You know, you could make
Sure.
that stretch.
Good point.
I'd go along with that. I didn't understand like the glass breaking, like the windows in the truck breaking out and the
Yeah.
clock breaking.
The
It's like how are
dogs,
what?
a lot of dogs barking and stuff, at least in the beginning, not so much
I
at the
could
end.
see that. I could, you know, dogs have kind of a sixth sense for the supernatural. So I see that. But like when he's driving in the truck and the windows shatter, I'm like, how did they do that? You know,
So I think what ended up happening was so before the fog rolls in and hits, I forgot the trawler's name that's
Antone.
out there.
Oh,
The
That's out
seagrass,
there on the ocean.
the
the
What
seagrass,
was it?
seagrass.
the seagrass.
Okay, so the seagrass before the fog rolls up on that thing. When you're talking about the whole town kind of going under, when the witching hour kicks in, it's like a shockwave, right? That kind of goes across the
Okay.
town. And to me, I always took that as the impression is like the veil is dropping between both worlds. And so the influence and everything is kind of leaking through. And I kind of feel like the shockwave is essentially just that's what's making all the car alarms go off, shattering the glass, messing with the gas pump and wasting tons of fuel. All that sweet jazz, like moving that girl's chair. Like there's a lot of weird stuff and it's kind of like anomalies, but it's not I don't think it's strictly like the fog or like the ghost. I think it's strictly just a pulse wave that's doing it, like of energy that's going throughout, the
Okay.
town. And then those guys get kind of caught in it. Because even after the windows shatter, I think they kind of like lose like their power fluctuates a little bit in the truck, and they're like, "Oh, what was that?" And then it's just Stevie Wayne on the radio, and they just drive back with no windshield. But that's always what I chalked it up to.
I was kind of confused also about why all that stuff happened the first night, abruptly stopped at 1 a.m. and then picked up again the next night because the next night's the 100-year anniversary, right?
It's well, so
It's like
it's just later that night, technically.
yeah, it's like later that day.
Midnight to 1 is the morning. It just kickstarts in it. So what? But you bring up a good point, and I mentioned this to Dick.
That's fair enough, actually. I
They
didn't
wait.
think,
It's
even think
midnight.
about technically it's the same day.
Yeah. So, but you brought up a good point. That first bit, it's midnight to 1, strictly,
Right.
and then at 1 o'clock, Nick Castle escapes death. The
Mhm.
next night, it just starts when it gets dark. There is no witching hour operative to that, which also adds to like, why didn't they just? They could have just came during the day. You know what I mean?
Well, they
Right.
did have some influences throughout the day too, with the coin and the board, and then like the thing like speaking.
Yeah. Also weird.
So yeah, so there was some influences pushed through the daylight hours, just not very much. And I don't know if it's weakened by the sun. I don't know if that's a factor with evil. I don't think it would be because I don't think it would stop anybody us. So like as soon as it got like the sun went down, like you said, it just like the fog rolls in and she's like, Eddie, run, and it just kicks off. But I don't. So between the rules of that, so also why do they knock? If why do they
Yeah.
knock on things if
Immediately,
they can just bust through? But then even after they get entry, they're not knocking, they're just breaking through. So it's like, why didn't you just break through to begin with?
it
They're a little loosey goosey with their rules, I guess.
they're
I
very
think the movie, I think it succeeds really well in like atmosphere and creep
yeah, for
factor,
sure.
Yeah.
performances, and cinematography. I feel like this movie has a lot of strengths, and then story wise, lots of what you could consider plot holes or just stuff that was never explained.
The knocking bit is weird because it's like it's very polite of them to, hey, we're here, and if you feel like coming out, we'll kill you. But if you stay indoors, probably safe.
Right.
And they knock on Nick's door, they knock on Miss Copra's door, they knock at Dan at the weatherman's station or whatever. They knock on his
Mhm.
door. So for some
No,
reason,
they knock on the
they knock on the lighthouse, but then they shock
I
that
think
door
so,
in.
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
one door. The strongest door we see in the movie is at the lighthouse, and they take it off the hinges.
Yeah. And then the fog just like sucks itself into the genie and just like shuts it down.
Yeah,
Maybe
just share
they're
the
just
boat, too.
knocking to like be creepy. They're like, this
I
is
mean,
gonna scare
that's
the
true.
shit out of them, dude.
I don't
Three
answer
knocks,
the door.
3 knocks, just like constantly, just like bugging the shit out of people.
I don't answer the door anyways. You know what I mean? And so
God, no.
definitely you're not going to get like I don't own a gun, but if I did, I knock at 12 or 1 a.m., I'm probably loading up. Like that's weird. It would freak me out. So, and real quick, so the fog is so this town is 100 years old. This town was built, Antonio Bay, on the blood money, basically, of a clipper ship full of people captained by a guy named Blake. This clipper ship colony wanted to establish a new colony north, I think, like within a mile or so, maybe, I think is the dialogue of Antonio Bay. But they carry leprosy, which I don't pretend to know a lot about. If you've seen it, the creepy guy from the Nable's house or whatever, he's a leper, which doesn't give a lot of context, but I guess you can kind of associate maybe like what they look like. Because I truly don't know a shit about leprosy.
I think your body like starts to deteriorate. I'm not 100% sure.
Is
Yeah,
it something that's like contagious?
I
it can't.
think-
Yeah,
No,
I don't know about.
I'm
I
not
don't know
gonna
about
pretend to know.
nowadays, but I'm pretty sure back in the day, like it didn't take much to cross the strain to other people. Like I think there were carriers and such, but so
The Antonio Bay founders falsely agree to let them set up and lure them in after, I guess, several meetings. If you go by Father Malone's book, it's like
diary, yeah,
they met in December, but like the sinking of the ship didn't happen until April, so I don't know what was going on in those 4 months. But they lead them to their deaths by building a bonfire that imitates a lighthouse, I guess.
I think
and
that's
their-
what I. That's how I.
their clipper ship crashes into the rocks. They all go down. The founders then make a plot to go loot the money and thus build their community into a township. So the fog is back on the Centennial to wreak hell, but it's weird that it's not like anybody went down on the ship being like, "I'll be back to get," like Scooby-Doo style, like, "I'll be back, you
Yeah.
better get 100 little," like it's a really weird, I don't know, like it's kind of one of the mysteries you're just left to interpret your own way, I guess.
Hmm.
Blake's never like, "I'm coming back in 100 years, well, better have my gold."
Right.
yeah. So the initial, it's weird too, because like the town, I don't know, I don't think the town even knows. Obviously, they don't know until much later when we find out from the diary from Father Malone. But yeah, the town is under the impression that it was just like a tragic accident during that time. They're just kind of led to believe that, like, oh, some fellow colonists kind of had a
Yeah.
mishap.
No foul play.
But with that, like, sprung forward our community and our city and all that jazz. But it definitely is kind of like a stark, like, no, they were killed for the money, for the gold. And then I think you find out what doesn't Father Malone, he steals the gold, melts it all down,
Yeah,
Melts it
or
into a giant
turns it into a
cross.
giant cross.
does he just like take what's left after spending to build a town? It's never.
So the question of the gold, I have a question about the gold that kind of intrigued me. So when Blake is meeting with them on the beach to kind of like, hey, we want to show up here and live up, up the coast. Like, we'll pay you gold. Or were they like, yeah, man, totally. And then he paid them the gold and then they killed them? Or did they kill them and then go get the gold?
I think the latter.
Okay.
That's what it
So-
sounds like. But because of the months that pass, according to Father Malone's grandpa's journal, it's really weird. It doesn't break it down the way we want it to. Like, give me the break.
Yeah.
It's very like, it's December and then it's April. So maybe like the winter. I don't know if they're like making trips back and forth. You don't know where they're from. At least, actually, I think it does. I think it says they're from Tangier Island or something.
Yeah, they're living on Tangier Island, which is an
know where that's
isolated
at.
island off the coast.
Is that that's a real place?
I'm not sure if it's a real place because, again, I'm not even sure if it's northern or southern California, but Antonio Bay is just like, I think it's up on the northern side. And I think it's just a little offshore island, not so much like, coastal island. And they were tired of being kind of isolated and living on it. And they just wanted to live kind of somewhere nicer. And They weren't risking
Got to
that.
be a pain in the ass having no or maybe limited resources on Tangier Island. I wonder why, like,
Yeah.
I wonder why the Antonio Bay guys weren't just like, hey, you have to understand a mile is a little close given the circumstances. Maybe go like a little bit up and that'd be fine. It's weird, like, I wonder if there was any suggestion to be like, what if you went further?
Or I think it was, I wonder if also if Blake was trying to be with the community, like trying to involve himself, trying to be included, or like, I think being alone and isolated just kind of like probably got to him because, I mean, it would me or anybody else, I would think,
Mm-hmm.
especially with a debilitating disease like leprosy. But it's not I mean, it's not a rational thought. I mean, I would ask, but I mean, apparently they didn't. They just thought light fires and run rocks, like.
Kill him and take the gold.
Yeah, very, very selfish and very needy. But I do like
Speaking of the gold, though, before we get too far away from that, I think if I was Father, what was his name? Father
Malone.
Malone?
Yeah.
Once I saw that giant gold cross, I would just be booking it out of there, man. That's so much gold.
Yeah.
Dude,
There's
that
no
thing
way
has to
I'm
weigh,
handing that over to the ghost.
thing has to weigh so much. He's like, Blake, he's like lifting it, like it's
That's so
heavy.
much.
And go on, having them killed for the gold is like terrible and tragic, but why does that put a timestamp on when they can exact their revenge?
I had to say, yeah, why wait 100 years? Why not the next year?
Yeah.
Why not the next night? Like, why did
Well,
they
maybe you
go?
got to work out your ghost powers. You're not fully
Yeah.
charged
Yeah,
up
right.
until
You don't have enough hate back building.
you got to
get your
practice a
spirit
little
going.
bit. You got to learn how to move the fog, and you got to,
I guess that's
They
true.
finally
you got to
saw
plan your route through town. It takes a while.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? They're really up to some shit. Now's a good time to come back and let them know.
Yeah. They like round numbers.
Yeah. Round
So
numbers.
the fog. It's so Father Malone kind of more than once I think is like, well, my grandfather was a conspirator, so I'm like marked more or less. But the fog doesn't ever like there is no claim of like we're here for the descendants of those who killed us. Does the 2005 movie make more of a point to do that?
I don't
Because
think so.
like it kills.
In both movies, I feel like they kind of implied that was the case, but then I
That's what
feel
I
like it
thought, too.
killed indiscriminately.
Yeah, because
I don't remember too much from the 2005 one, even though I did just watch it the other day. It was just
That forgettable.
it was very, very forgettable.
it's tough. Yeah, it's poor Tom Welling, like any CW star making the horror movie remake jump to the silver screen falls short, and it's tough. We have a really cool cast in this movie.
We do.
Anybody familiar with like John Carpenter or these flicks is going to recognize some people in this. So we have Tom Atkins, right? America's Drunk Dad, right?
The American, the myth, the legend. Yeah.
We have Jamie Lee Curtis, fresh off of her Halloween success. We have Hal Holbrook and Adrienne Barbeau, who is the real life wife of John
Ex-wife.
Carpenter, ex-wife.
Yeah, I think they were married at the time of filming.
Yeah, good for her. Good for her.
Oddly enough, yeah.
We get Charles Cyphers, also in Halloween. We get Nancy Loomis, also in Halloween, and then in Halloween 3 with Tom Atkins. We have Scream Queen Janet Leigh from
Psycho fame.
Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, real life mom. They get to share the screen together. Pretty cool.
One of only 2 times, right?
Yeah, I think this and Halloween H2O.
H2O.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about yeah. Also a good movie. So pretty cool cast of names and faces, even though they don't all, even when they're all together, they don't all actually interact together, which is kind of weird. It's kind of like Legolas doesn't ever talk to Frodo, even though they're all on the same mission type deal.
Yeah.
It's one of those which I noticed this time around. I was like, they don't actually talk to each other, but pretty sweet. A few of these guys are named after friends of John Carpenter, which I thought was interesting. And some of them directly named so. So Tom Atkins plays a guy named Nick Castle, who plays Michael Myers, correct, in Halloween?
Yeah.
That's what
We have the weatherman Charles Cyphers plays a guy named Dan O'Bannon, directly named after the writer-director Dan O'Bannon from Alien.
Who's friends with Carpenter.
Friends with Carpenter. He's the writer of Alien. He wrote and directed Return of the Living Dead, which is a pretty big cult movie.
And they both worked on a low budget movie called Dark Star together.
One of the first victims, the seagrass, becomes our first, pretty quick into the film, becomes our first couple kills. And we get 3 of them right off the bat. One of them is named Tommy Wallace, who is a friend of Carpenter's and also the director of Halloween 3, I believe.
Yes.
So, which is neat. Like, he's kind of doing a Sandler thing. Like, I'm going to put my friends in this. If not physically, I'm going to represent them in character, which is kind of neat. That'd be me making a movie and being like Derek Adams and Tyler Anders, you know? So that's pretty fucking cool. Like, if somebody named a character Nick Walter after me, guys, feel free. If you're writing something, I'm all about it. Make them taller though, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the characters need names, so you might as well use names that you know.
That's true. Yeah, better than like Johnny Johnson. You know, like crafting your own.
Right.
6 kills is all they need. Pretty indiscriminate on who they're going after because they go after Nick Castle and I said side piece hitchhiker Jamie Lee Curtis. You know, would have been a. Imagine if they had got everybody in that first witching hour though. What a clean, like just going there clean, and then like
as soon as they
in
and
out,
6 people, they're like, all right, we're good. We'll come back in the next 100.
Yeah, we'll see in another. Yeah, I can imagine.
See you at the reunion.
I'm like, man, 6 people died. I am going to circle to a point. So the 3 on the seagrass, Miss Copritz, the weatherman, and then Father Malone. Everybody disappears except one of the fishermen. Why do they leave one of them behind? And they kill him. You know, they do his eyes, which is kind of neat. They kill him in like the engine control room. But then he's found below deck. So the fog was like, hey, haul his ass down here real quick.
Yeah.
You couldn't have known people would find him if that was the case. Like that would be a leap. But why leave him behind at all? Like what? And I know he's got a scene later that also doesn't fucking make sense. But it's a weird, like, everybody else just fucking disappears. No blood, no sign of nothing. If they cleaned it all in one night, nobody would have known what happened to these 6 people. It'd have been like Croatoan all over. Just be like, where the fuck they go?
Yeah.
So it's weird. I always never understood like why they find that guy, where he finds him, and why they find him at all.
I almost felt like he was just, I don't know, maybe he was like a placeholder for like a death omen or something for like the rest of town. Be like, hey, yeah, you forgot. By the way, they took out 3 people, 1 boat. It's like, well, there goes half their list already done.
Yeah.
So when the corpse carves in 3, you're like, oh shit. I mean, yeah, they already got 3 people, so I guess the next 3 shouldn't be too hard, but it takes the rest of the movie to try and get those 3. Going back to the descendant thing, I was reading today that apparently, at least for the first movie, and I think the novelization says more directly, it's implied in the movie that they are descendants, but it doesn't strictly out say. But I guess the novelization, which is based on like a lot of the earlier script work, says that, yeah, they are descendants. But if that's the case, then the math ain't mathin', because they definitely go after more than the descendants.
They go after more than 6 people.
Right, they just need to kill the 6 descendants, but spook everyone else out.
So I don't, who they pick and choose who they go after is pretty wild. Like if Miss Culpritz was a descendant, then why would they go after Andy?
Yeah, they go after Andy and his mom, by the way.
Right, if they're only going after descendants, the stakes are pretty low.
Yeah,
because it's only a threat to those 6 people. You know?
I would definitely. And you did. I mean,
in a town where everybody still lives, by the way, after 100 years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, nobody. It was like, we should maybe move inland, or like, what if my job relocated me?
If the colonies didn't expand, they just stayed right there on the coast.
And it's been 100 years. I'm surprised the fog didn't come back and was like, hey, you know, they're all driving in cars now, right? Like, this place has changed. This was not the way we left it.
And no more boats on the road, man.
No more.
They're like, oh, look at this place.
Yeah. And we should check that store out that we spooked that janitor who snakes a drink of some orange juice, by the way.
I know, he's doing the old, TikTok challenge there like an idiot.
They definitely
did. My wife was so disgusted by that.
Dude, oh, man. For some reason, it's like an 80s staple, because I think in Friday 13 Part 3, same thing happens. Dude just starts eating things. It's like, why? Why are you guys doing this?
Yeah, it's like, I guess cameras weren't a thing, but if you're like a nighttime janitor cleaning a store that looks pretty clean already, by the way, at midnight.
Yeah.
I'm probably doing
clean that store 10 times.
You know what? Get a pack of donuts, snake some orange juice, call it a night. Sweep that.
But what you don't do is put it back.
Was there no seal? Was there no kind of seal?
Oh, why not steal like a little Highland Dairy thing of milk or something instead of like, I better get the biggest liter of orange juice on the shelf and take a
He's got
swig.
like that big bottle of Simply and just drinking it.
Well, if you actually like consume a full drink and throw it away, then that'll come up in the inventory. But if you take a
Yeah,
sip and then sell it, it's still counted in the inventory. You still make all your money back on it.
I guess that's true.
He
I
probably
would
doesn't
respect
own
it
the store,
somehow.
so he doesn't want to get fired for.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just defected, just poke a hole in the bottom, like, oh, I don't know, this leaked. Cleaning one night just happened.
Well, so we're still bitching about the motive of the fog. This town clearly has whatever, a couple hundred people living in it. We see at the Centennial, there are plenty of people there. We don't ever see the town's reaction to the fog or anybody else notice it or run into it. Every time the fog is sweeping through town, the town is empty, the stores are all closed, and that you can argue everyone's at the Centennial, but they weren't the night before. So we don't. It's not like anybody. We don't ever hear anybody else being like, "Hey, anybody else see that fog last night?" Aside from the dogs and the car alarms and everything going off. It would have. I wish we would have seen more civvy activity from that. Reactions or
But
what.
yeah, because the town's only like radio station is just like having a meltdown on air, screaming about the fog.
Yeah.
Like, are there some people unaware that's like, what is she going on about?
She
Like,
radios for the sheriff, by the way, and instead of going out there, he just takes a phone call that dies, and then he's like, "Guess everything's good." He never, ever is like worried about like, somebody called me.
He's not worried about anything.
Our local,
because like later on,
voice just radioed for help, and I'm gonna let her go.
he doesn't worry about anything. Like later on, he's talking to Janet Leigh, and she's pretty much telling her like her husband's like lost at sea.
Right.
And he's just like, well, I'm up next, so I'll talk to you later. Just like kind of moses off. And it's like, whoa, dude, like, all right, no compassion. But
let's talk about the radio show for a second. Where does her money come from?
So I took it as a venture that her and her husband went in on. And then I think he died.
Does she get paid to run the lighthouse? Does she make sponsor revenue from the radio station?
I almost took it as like maybe they bought it and converted it into a radio station, and her and her husband were doing it, and then like as like a, hey, this is like what we do as a job, and then
it's a pretty small town.
Yeah. I mean,
how far a reach does the radio station have? Like you wouldn't think she'd be able to sell advertising for a radio station that only reaches a few hundred people. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but I'm like, lady, you got a kid to support,
These are valid questions.
Like, how are you paying the bills?
She seems to be the only one working it. She tells Dan on the phone, she's like, I'm the only one here day and night. But she actually only works nights. So she's either lying to the weatherman or she's inflating her actual duties there.
Yeah.
When she gets there mid-movie, it's 6:00. She goes on air at 6. And she repeatedly tells over the air that, like, I'm here till 1 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, first off, that's only 7 hours. So where's your full 40? Get in there and do some work. Her kid, Andy, who does fine in the movie. He's fine. We see him in Halloween 2, also, Carpenter related. He's eating razor blades on Halloween or whatever. You mentioned this earlier with the gold, and this is a weird scene. So he's running on the beach and he finds the gold coin that then turns into a piece of driftwood. The one piece of driftwood that happened to have half the name of the ship, the Elizabeth Dane, and he finds a piece of wood that says Dane on it. He's mind blown. Mom takes it to, which is weird that she brings it with her anyways. It hasn't done anything fishy yet. She takes it with her to the radio station, which looks to be pretty far out if you look at that drive, and then down 300 steps. What's with this scene? So walk me through this.
So she's sleeping. Her son's frolicking on the side of the beach, which I think is kind of hazardous, especially with tides and stuff coming in. But
he's wearing a coat. It doesn't look like it's a warm day on the beach.
No, it's not a warm day. It also no life preserver, like nothing to save him from getting sucked out to the ocean. But he's like, I think he's fishing. He has a fishing pole and he's running amok, and he sees a shimmering light coming from the rocks. So he runs over and he sees a doubloon chilling on the rocks. And then as soon as he gets close to get it, a wave crashes up and replaces it with a piece of driftwood. Or it morphs into a piece of driftwood. I'm not sure. Like you said with the name. He picks it up, runs it back, takes it to Mom. Mom's like, oh, that's nice, honey. For some reason, she carries it with her. I don't know why she takes it to work. She could
Yeah,
have just
that's
left it
true.
there at the house, and it could have been possessing the jukebox there just fine. But so she takes it back. First off, she drives forever. It's like a nice country drive, like just through the hills. And then next thing you know, it's like a mile and a half walking of steps down to this lighthouse. She gets down there. She gets up to the thing. She starts listening to, I think, promos to kind of like start her day to figure out which ones she wants to use. And that's when the thing like starts like spitting that evil nonsense and like becomes alive and starts working its way through the speakers. And I couldn't tell what all of it was saying. It said something about like crushing their bodies against the milling stone, and it's like more like a something. And then he's just like, damn them all, and the thing catches fire. And before it does that, it says 6 must die. It changes from Dane, so it
Yeah.
shape shifts again, and it says 6 must die. Catches fire. She puts it out, and it just goes back to saying Dane. And then she just looks at it like, huh.
Huh.
She goes right back to work. So first off, that's already like terrifying. But I don't I don't get what was with the board, like another death omen maybe, but I don't understand why it's shape shifting.
Yeah, if she had left
Yeah,
that at home, like, any other probably person would, no idea what would it like. She would have had no clue like something fishy's going on because she then radios Andy, where we meet also Mrs. Kopritz,
Yeah.
the babysitter, who is old enough to probably have been there when Elizabeth Dane crashed. But
She was one of the conspirators right off the bat
it
100 years ago.
immediately sets off motherly instincts where she's like, Andy, no more going to the beach. Don't pick up any more wood or coins or
She
anything.
practically rattles them through the phone. She's like, "Where did you get it?
Where did
How
you
did
get
you
it?"
get it?" I told you, Ma. It was in the rocks. It was a gold coin. Yeah, she just kind of like does that. I'm assuming she tells Nick Castle later when Nick calls her to ask her about some of the oddities and like what she was talking about with the
Sounds
fog.
like it. Yeah.
But she doesn't, we don't hear it, but I'm pretty sure she's like, well, this flaming board just kind of started
Yeah,
talking.
because she's like, it may be nothing, but
Fuck
and
that
then it
does.
kind of cuts to and where I think it's implied she gives the story or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah. I thought that scene was pretty creepy, but yeah, now that you mention it, it doesn't make any sense why she would bring it to work
I don't, yeah. She
and
just
why
has
she
it
didn't
underneath her
freak out
arm the
more
entire
about it.
time. Yeah, I don't.
Spontaneous combustion and like some weird evil.
Demon speak is coming from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Demon speak.
Like, what
Exactly.
the was
I
that
think I
moment?
would have been a little more rattled by that. I think I might take the day off.
Yeah. Like, I would have been like, first thing that thing started speaking. Then it caught fire, and I had to put it out. I'm like, nah, we're not doing the radio today, guys. Sorry. Throwing this back in the ocean.
Do any of you have a fire extinguisher within arm's reach anywhere? Because it's right next to her. She's just like,
No,
oh, shit.
but
Well, that might be an OSHA thing.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably a business or like a
That
safety
is her
thing.
place
like,
of
it being a
work, yeah.
lighthouse. I'm sure there's one somewhere, somewhat near, but and all that
In case
electronic crap.
the light bulb overheats in the
Yeah.
lighthouse, and then you gotta
That
I actually don't even know what a
powder spill.
lighthouse keeper does. You just change the bulb once every 10 years or whatever. I don't know.
I think they just kind of maintain it, and when they get radio signals or when they see signals of bad storms and fogs, they just like, all right, light it up, and they're kind of like the torch and the light of like
I
guiding
thought it was always
people
going. Do they only light it when there's ships around?
I see.
I
I always
assume
thought
was
it was
full-time
more.
also.
See, I always thought it was under the impression of like when like storms and stuff roll in, that's when they would do it. But I mean, because if so, that's an incredible waste of resources.
Well, one question I also had about the lighthouse: how can she see the whole town from there?
Even
She's
though
like,
it's
the
facing
fog's
out.
coming up Main Street. Everybody watch out! And it's like, there's no way you could see the whole town from
Well,
there.
it's
It's like the
way
lowest
it-
lighthouse I've ever seen in my life.
the
You
way
have to
the
go
windows-
downstairs to get to it.
Yeah, you gotta go down one
It's
cliff
below
side
the
to
town
cliff.
level, I think. I don't know. I didn't see a full
Well,
wide
the
shot of
lighthouse
the whole
layout
town.
is also weird. We see it's like there's a structure and then the light, where the light comes from, the lighthouse part of the light, whatever.
Right.
But she enters through a side door, not of the circular lighthouse. We only ever see the Jenny, the closet, and the spiral staircase. Then she goes up into an even smaller room, which strictly seems to be business. We don't see a bed. We don't see a bathroom, which I imagine have to be there. You bring up a good
Yeah.
point because the town is directly out the one window she's got. It's not like she's like, let me look at the town. I mean, it's right out her front window.
Yeah,
Right.
she like looks off to the right, and it's like you can see the coastline, which again doesn't make much sense when it comes to cliffs and bluffs.
Yeah, it's a really weird. Real quick, what do you what do we think of Stevie Wayne? She's kind of hot. Like they talk about her like sultry voice. I know those three dudes are like, man, I'd love to whatever. They got like some
Yeah,
throwaway
yeah.
Yeah,
dialogue.
yeah. Man talking. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man talk down there, drunk, boozing it up on the seagrass.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
definitely.
What a catch!
Well,
Go
even
John
she says
Carpenter.
something about like keep me turned on and I'll
Try to do the same for
She
you.
definitely
turn
knows
you on.
her
I don't know.
audience. She knows that
Yeah.
like she appeals to a bunch of just like fishermen and seamen and all this kind of stuff, like which playing to her strengths or whatever. Even
Yeah.
though she's just a voice and not because Dan the weatherman chats her up all the time, but has no idea what she I guess doesn't know what she looks like.
I think he
I
knows
will
what she looks
say
like.
in other movies, I've never really been a fan of the radio DJ narrating the story. Like you get that in like the Warriors and stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
I've never been a huge fan of that. This is to me the best example of it because I don't think it was that intrusive, even though, like I said, I don't understand how she could see the whole town. But I've never really been a fan of that like story device, the narrating DJ.
That's fair. I do like the Warriors though.
I love the movie The Warriors, but every time it's like the DJ part, I'm like, ah,
She's like, "Hey, boppers, yeah," to talk,
yeah,
chatting up her audience or whatever. That's fair. I guess she modeled that characterization off of a real life DJ, some gal, and I don't have the info in front of me, but I guess that's inspired by somebody, a gal who used to whatever, soft sultry voice, appealing to her audience. However,
I liked her character a lot better than the DJ in the remake.
Oh, Selma
oh,
Blair.
dude,
Yeah.
She comes in, she's easy on the eyes or whatever, but she has this attitude like I'm gonna play whatever music I want. It's like,
Yeah. Very
yeah, it's your
angsty.
radio station, lady.
Yeah. Like you don't gotta. Why are you arguing with yourself? Just do whatever you
She
want.
seemed a little too sassy for me. It was like,
Yeah.
all right.
That was that 2000 angst, man. It was just.
well,
It
when
was
you do with
everywhere.
Hellboy, you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah.
You talk about the music though. I read that it's like soft jazz or whatever in this because the royalties for real rock music were too expensive. And you don't
Yeah.
really it's not something you really think about it. Like it's 1980. So this movie's 45 years old, by the way. And it's not something you really think about it. And like it almost to me would feel weirder had she been like, and here's some Led Zeppelin to play us out. Like, you know what I mean? Like that to
Yeah,
me probably would have
right.
made it weirder. But
Yeah.
maybe
I'd
that's just
agree.
me. I kind of dig the jazzy whatever.
Well, I also think too it kind of correlates with what John was kind of wanting to do. He had a real fond love for like sultry women and talk like you were saying, but also in the notion of think like noir type of style of like woman where she's like always smoking a cigarette, always very smooth talking, very domineering in her own way, very powerful or whatever the case. And it's kind of the same with Adrienne Barbeau. Like that's what he wanted to do. Even so much to the point that she was smoking when she didn't want to smoke. I guess like she had kind of like she was like real strict like anti-smoking. And John was like, "Hey, I kind of need you to smoke." And
This
she's like,
character
"I
needs to
don't want
smoke.
to." Yeah. And so she kind of got onto him about it, but they
I
made
saw
it all right.
something about John Carpenter really liking like strong female characters, and I think this was like a good example
That's evident.
of
Halloween.
Yeah.
having strong female characters without being like rah rah girl power, girl bosses get it done better. I feel like old movies are better at showcasing strong women. I feel like today it's like they're beating you over the head with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
She's doing it and she's a girl.
Yeah,
And before they just like were strong. They didn't have to like tell you they're strong. Like, are you noticing how strong I'm being?
it's a weird
You know what I mean?
overcorrection that happens a lot in modern films now. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like subtle, but it's like it really was like strong female characters doing stuff. So you didn't, yeah, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, horror's always carried that torch for women in general because I mean, look at the final girl. That's all that is she's
Right.
the last standing survivor. She's the one that's putting up the biggest fight. She's the one that's in it to win it. So, I mean, it only stands to reason that like John Carpenter kind of follows suit with that and along with other horror movies. I definitely think she was obviously she was attractive, but she was a really driving point for like kind of like asking the right questions, but not overtly asking too many questions. Like when Dan tells her that, like, hey, by the way, you gave out the wrong information. It's blowing east or whatever, not west. And she's like, my gauges are pointing a certain way, so why would it blow the other way? And he's like, I don't know, Fox crazy. Like, doesn't even acknowledge it almost.
Yeah.
So she, like, right off the bat, she knows something's like not exactly right, but she just can't put her finger on it. So she's already self-aware of like kind of what's going on. So as a character, that's that like kind of focused is like, oh, you want to follow that character. You want to see what they do and kind of like go with them on their journey. Same thing with Nick Castle and Jamie Lee Curtis as they're trying to find the seagrass and stuff. That was really cool. Talking to Father Malone was really interesting. And I love the fact that he was like appalled at the fact that is like founding members of the town were murderers and that they were celebrating it. Like he was just like, we can't, he's like, this is a travesty. Like, what the fuck are we doing? And they're just like, well, it was a long time ago. Maybe you shouldn't worry about it. Don't think about it. And it's just like, it's
Well,
a
they're not.
travesty. Like it's terrible.
They're not. They're not celebrating the
death.
deceit. They're celebrating
Yeah.
the town. I get it. They didn't murder the people.
I also
Right. But
also asked that question. First off, Hal Holbrook is awesome. Father Malone doesn't do a lot.
oh, he's stellar, dude.
He's in his cups or whatever, as they quote. Every time we see him. But Janet Leigh's kind of right. Like she's like, well, what really does it matter now? Like what we can't do anything about it. So it's
Right.
it's not like it's not like she's wrong, and she's not like totally dismissing it, but she's like, look, man, like it happened. It's been 100 years, and
Yeah,
and
we
if
should
there
probably
was a
move on.
That's
descendant,
fair.
if there was like a descendants tie into the movie, I think that probably would have been the time for her to be like, it never comes up of like, well, there are others like your grandpa who have lineage still in town. But I think she's right to ask, like, does it matter?
Right. That's fair. I can see that. I know
Well,
it's been like 100 years, but it's like it'd be like a stark revelation. Like the whole town knows. Like, so would the town still keep it a secret, or would they tell people? I mean, Stevie Wayne's blasting all the fog business all over the radio, anyways. But I'd like after this night, what does this town do? How do they bounce back from it, kind of thing? Like, do they find out? Do they not know? Do they experience the fog? Do they think everybody's crazy? They get that lady off the radio, or
You would definitely think some of them are crazy. Like the ones that are like on the outskirts of town are like
yeah,
crazy radio DJ. I'm never listening to this again.
man, there is no fog bank out there.
Yeah.
Stevie Wayne, though, is the only one who reacts the way she should be reacting. So, like, and not just to the fog, but to the elements going on. So, if I'm Nick Castle and I pick up
That's
a
fair.
hitchhiker and I just get done having the, like, you're number 13 and I'm unlucky, all my windows get shattered in my car while I'm driving. One, I would be freaking out. They took that way too chill.
Mhm.
Seeing
yeah.
the fog do the things that it does, everyone should be freaking out. I mean, even Andy is pretty chill. There's a meat hook coming through the door, and he's still just like, Mrs. Kopitz, like as if that could be her doing that.
This is culprits. Yeah.
Nobody. He's in the chapel, like he's hiding behind the altar or whatever. As Malone and Blake are like duking it, whatever, holding onto this cross that's like blinding
Having
them.
their holy fight. Yeah.
Everyone is just super, just like, whoa, what's gonna happen next? Nobody
yeah.
is reacting the way that they should. So all the acting is fine. Like nobody's bad at acting, but all their reactions are totally tame to like how that should be.
Oddly enough, like thinking about it, I think only the women are like actively reacting. Like Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis, Nancy Loomis, those guys are all screaming because they're being like, they're being grabbed at. Adrian Barbeau, same thing. Andy's hiding in in the corner. Nick Castle's like, the freaking fog, man. They're messing with us again. Like he almost seems unfazed. He runs head first into like, it's bizarre. Father Malone's like, oh, there's a bunch of weird shit going around here. Like he's so oblivious too. I definitely feel like everybody was fair game at the end, but if that's the case, again, the descendants problem doesn't really make sense. But with it ending abruptly with them touching the gold, did you guys, when you guys first saw it, did you believe that was the end? And then when they showed up in the end, the very end, to get Father Malone, were you guys like, shit?
I thought that was going to be the end. I was a little annoyed that they killed Father Malone anyway.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, they should have kept the gold at that point.
No, I mean that's true.
Again,
But
it goes back to the gold.
they got their 6 conspirator. I don't think they wanted the gold. I think the gold was just like a happenstance. Like, oh, here's
Yeah,
your
but
gold. He's like, okay, we'll take that too. But
you would think if like they had nothing to do with the original deceit, and then he's like, "Hey, dude, here, take your gold back." You know, I don't know. That
yeah,
seemed like to me that would logically end the curse.
break it.
I guess I kind of took it as Father Malone was just wrong. Like it was his
Oh,
misinterpretation of them wanting the gold. Like, yeah, they want revenge, but we took the gold and we have it still. If I give them this, we're good. But then again, he does kind of question they give the gold and they decapitate or whatever. He does kind of like, well, why didn't they take me? And then
Yeah, that's literally like his last words before
he
the
did tell him
ball
to
rolls
take
back
me, didn't
in.
he? Before
Yeah.
he hands him the gold.
yeah, why
Yeah.
didn't? But yeah, so why didn't Blake grab the gold and then put his saber through Father Malone and just like be done? Like it's weird that they
Right.
even let. It's like he had to
Yeah.
like float it back to the ship or the depths, and then he came back for round 2, slices his head off. It does suck that that's
were-
the ending.
They were just tricking him like they got tricked.
I
They're
guess.
like,
I
haha,
guess.
you thought you
yeah,
were
yeah.
safe? So did we. Stab.
Yeah. Here you go, Father.
Yeah.
See, I did
You
granddad for me.
You talk about what's the radio DJ's name? Stevie Wayne.
Stevie Wayne.
KAB.
You talk about her reacting appropriately, and I think for the most part you're spot on. Until it comes to her kid, when she's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't come and rescue you. I have to stay on the radio. Lady, go save your fucking kid.
I thought that too. My only conclusion was that the distance, like it wouldn't have mattered. And it
You still gotta try, man.
for sure. No, like Hunter as a parent, for sure.
If that was my kid, I'd throw on some jazz and I'd be out of there. You know, you'd just be listening to the same song on repeat for the next
Just
however
throw on a
long it
full
takes me
album,
to get
you know,
back.
no skips, no sponsors. I'll see
Yeah,
you
like
now.
my only son. I hope you're okay. I hope somebody goes. This is my address. Somebody go help him.
She puts a lot of faith into that whole town listening to her consistently for exactly that reason. Like Nick Castle has it going, and like Janet Leigh and Nancy, their characters, Kathy and I've got Sandy, are leaving the Centennial, and then she's like, "Feel like some music?" and happens to turn on KAB, and thus know to get to the church or whatever. But that's a lot of like faith and like, I hope this town loves me as much as I love them, and they have me on all the time, or at least between the hours of 6 to 1 or 2. What are they listening
Right.
to during the day?
I just
I'm sure they
pre-recorded
get other
jazz. More
stations.
pre-recorded jazz.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
gotta be-
I hear what you're saying. It's like, how do you even guarantee that people are going to be listening?
yeah.
And how come even just by like doing that shout out, like I'm sure some couple other randos probably would have showed up at the church. Like not everybody, not the whole town, but like maybe 1 or 2 other people probably would have gone. Like they probably would have listened, saw the fog, and be like, "Oh, this is some freaky shit," and then head up that way. She is putting a lot of faith in the town by talking, but she's also putting a lot of faith in just putting information out on the radio for Nick Castle to hear. Because at one point she's like, "It's the old place by," I can't remember. It's not Spivey Point. It's like some road, and she reiterates it again. She's like, "For anybody listening, it's a down so and so road," and then you see him spin out and like go down that road. What if he turned his radio off? Or what if he went in the truck? What if he wasn't even near a radio? He wouldn't hear any of that.
Imagine how mad Father Malone would have been if Nick Castle and them don't go save Andy. Andy becomes kill 4 or 5. Dan O'Bannon the weatherman becomes the last kill. And then Father Malone just doesn't. 1, he gets to keep the gold, and 2, he doesn't die. Like we would have met the 6 kills sooner. Like would he have like it seems like he would have been really bummed. Like, what do you mean they killed somebody else before they got to me? I'm right here.
Yeah.
I had a glass waiting for them. You know what I mean?
Is this church even in service? Because he's only there by himself. He's constantly drunk. And if he is leading the service, I can't imagine what those Sundays must be like.
Well, it seems like he like lives there too. We asked this question because he doesn't.
Yeah.
He spends the whole day there. I mean, he's there literally at midnight, which meant he was there before, and then he's there all day into the next night. So it's weird that he just hangs out there. And they have a janitor played by John Carpenter, Ben Bennett, in the beginning, unpaid, by the way, unpaid, doing it for free labor. Uh, in one of the funny kind of scenes, you know. But yeah, it's certainly a weird like circumstance with this church. Like, is it in use? Is it the only church in town? Would any church have been
Yeah,
fine?
it seems like no one in this town has a real job.
Yeah.
Right. They're all taking like every store seems to close at 8. You know, like they're all except for the one janitor sweeping that store in the middle of the night.
Yeah, he's the only one with a job.
Between him and the coroner, those two are the only two with jobs. Nick, earlier you mentioned the coroner scene. What other issues did you have with that, or what
So
did you like about it? About it?
felt so I if I remember right, the coroner scene is also part of the reshoots. And
Yeah.
so I wonder if I'm answering my own question earlier about why was this one body left. I wonder if that was a reshoot. Like, hey, we're gonna put this coroner scene, which means we have to have a body, which means we have to find that body from the seagrass. But it's midday. They have the coroner is talking to Nick, and that's kind of a cool scene because they're breaking down like water damage, death, and like that kind of stuff. Silt under the nails.
Yeah,
and
they're bringing the science to the table.
Um,
They're bringing science to the table.
So that's a cool scene. I do like where that they're part of it. But the body gets up with no actual fog chilling in like the room or anything. Although Nick does mention there's a chill in the air, which the doctor ignores. But it gets up, kind of attacks Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, what if that had been a successful kill? And then when he goes down or misses or whatever, slips, he carves or writes 3 on the floor, like 3, like I guess remaining, or
Right.
either that 3 are dead or 3 remaining. I guess you could interpret it either way.
Either way.
But it's a scene that just sticks out. Like, what the fuck is what? Like, it almost I think I'm answering my question. It just feels like it had to be inserted for runtime and more scare factor.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I liked the conversation between Nick Castle and the coroner about we found those boys and they were under for 10 days. I promise you right now, he was down there long.
That is cool.
I liked that. I don't know. They didn't really explain why he was the only one that was like dry land drowned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like none of the other bodies, none of the other people that got killed were like appeared to be drowned, but they were just stabbed or whatever.
Yeah, we don't find their bodies at all, right?
Yeah, they never show back up.
For being like an undead antagonist, they sure do a lot of like physical stabbing and stuff.
Well, the odd thing too about the boat when they find his body is Nick Castle says something along the lines of like, I saw her a few days ago and she was tip top, but like now it looks like she's been turned over in the water, which is also strange because they find the body down in the bunks. The bunks, if you look, that the whole room is like ransacked. It's like, did the ghost really just ransack the shit out of this room? Like,
make it look like a robbery.
Yeah, I don't so.
Throw off
not
the
to say
cops.
that it did flip over, but like, yeah, it doesn't make sense as to why everything's trashed.
It broke all the gauges. It flooded the engine, and wrecked the sleeping quarters or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a boat guy. I don't know the term.
The bunks. I think it is called the bunks.
The bunks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it seems to be a running theme of like, just the story doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you like put it under a magnifying glass, but otherwise, every other element of the movie is pretty.
Yeah, I know I'm asking all the questions and picking it, but I've seen this movie a lot, and it's for as long as I can remember. I don't ever remember being like scared per se, but I've always appreciated the fog element. I remember one time, I think I texted you about it, Derek, after it happened. I remember I'm leaving my parents one time a few years ago. It's foggy out. Get in my car, I hook up my Spotify. The very first song that comes on is the theme to the fog. And I remember as I'm sitting there, like in the fog, I remember texting Derek being like, holy shit, tonight's the night. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Here's my final, you get my Xbox and my DVDs, when I pass.
Yeah. Speaking of the fog itself, I heard that they wanted the fog to almost be like its own character. And I feel like they nailed that perfectly.
Yeah.
Like if there's one thing that like they did really well, it's the fog effects.
100%.
I remember
a lot of miniatures to capture it going through town.
Yeah.
Like the way it creeps over the hill when Stevie spots it at her lighthouse, and there's like that cool, like dark hill shot, and it like the way it like sets on up over the hill. I'm pretty sure that's a miniature. Has to be. Um, but it
I think
sells. It works.
one of the ways they did it, I believe, they took two different recordings, right? They filmed the landscape or whatever part of town that they wanted to have the fog in. And then on like a dark stage, like a blacked out stage, they would construct basically a replica of whatever building, not like a replica, but like that same shape. And it would be blacked out, and then they would use dry ice and push the fog in over so it would contour around the shape of the stand-in for whatever they wanted to use. Then they would overlay it, and it would appear as though the fog was going around the house or the store or whatever it is
That's
that they
cool,
needed
yeah.
it to go around. One of the scenes they filmed in reverse so that because they said they needed the fog to come in and then disappear. And they said we can push the fog in, but it's impossible just to pull it back out. So we filmed it in reverse, and they
That's cool.
told Stevie Wayne, the actress that played her, uh, watch out when you blink because when we do this reverse effect, it's really obvious when you blink that it's reversed. I thought that was
Oh,
interesting.
I hadn't thought about that.
I remember the scene that really like locked me in and made me like this movie was with Dan the Weatherman when he's on the phone with Stevie Wayne and he goes and answers the door, but like while he's on the phone you see the fog roll in outside the window and then the lights go out and then when he opens the door he's got that red backlight and then the light on the front
Yeah,
of him.
that is a cool shot.
And I was like, it was broad daylight when I'm watching this, and I was like, man, this actually is kind of creepy. You know, I could picture myself being home, and then you look out the windows, and your house is just swallowed in fog, and then there's a creepy knock at the door. That scene really sucked me in and solidified it as a movie that I liked. Yeah, so the fog, I think they really nailed that effect.
I like in the beginning when so the seagrass notices the fog out there, and two of them, they go out on deck, and you see the clipper ship or parts of it, like glimpses, like through the fog, and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" And I think the one guy can see it on radar. He's like, "It's right beside him."
Yeah.
They're looking out on their deck, and it's like foggy, and no one's there. And then it's like kind of in an instant through the fog, you see a couple of fog men or whatever, Blake and some dudes. And I like they don't sell it by an overreaction of like, what the fuck? But it's like a close up of his face, and you can tell he's like, what is that? And like that's kind of eerie because it's almost like you don't want to give it more noise, like you don't want to attract it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like very like subtly like, what the fuck? And then
Yeah, they're
it kills the
whispering.
one guy from behind, and then it kills the other guy, head on or whatever. But I always it is cool how they insert themselves and appear kind of seemingly out of the church is a good example. They just show up in the pews or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like see them filing in or anything. It adds to the creepiness that they just like are fucking there.
One of my favorite lines when they're on when they're on the seagrass and he's looking out the window and he's like, "There's no fog bank out there," and then he looks again, he's like, "Oh, there's a fog bank out there."
We quote
Yeah,
that fairly frequently. We're always like, "There's no goddamn
all
fog
the
break out
time.
there." The way he
This
like
movie's
is
super
husky in
quotable.
this like in his glass, or whatever in his can, just like yeah,
There's
whatever.
no fog bank out there.
Yeah,
Hey, there's a fog bank out there. Just
yeah,
like real
yeah.
quick, changes his tune. Yeah,
I
it's good
think
stuff.
that's
I thought that
actually
was
one
good.
of the technical errors of the film is that I thought I read that fog does not show up on radar, like even in modern day.
I would believe that.
Dan repeatedly is like, I can, hey, I'm picking up some fog coming in, but I guess that's
Yeah.
actually not doable, or I guess that's not
Yeah,
something it picks up. So it is like, you wouldn't know it because I don't work a radar, but I would have assumed that it shows up. They can detect everything else, but it is interesting that I guess that's just something they added either not knowing or just ignored to make a movie.
I think. Well, I
One
think how radars usually work is it pings off of density. So if it's something big and dense, like an aircraft or a boat, like it's going to be able to ping that pretty easily. Fog, yeah, I can see that being kind of a problem.
Yeah, fog's just
But
like
if
water
it's
vapor and
yeah, but if it's I guess if it's dense enough, which I don't know if it's even a fog at that point, it might be mist. I don't know. But I definitely like the fog glowing. I thought that was kind of a nice touch.
Super
when
cool.
you're talking
And
about like when it was like glowing green and then like bluish, greenish, kind of
yeah,
seafoam.
whereas like glue, like anytime it glue, really, I thought was really cool. Like when it pulsates the light, I thought that was really interesting. But
It
yeah,
was
the
cool, but it definitely I felt like it definitely looked dated for sure.
yeah, I mean, as all
But I
things
still
do
liked it.
of those
I
times.
did like it, but I felt like that really dated the movie. When
And
you
you also mentioned some reverse shots. I thought some of the reverse shots of like getting the fog to go into something, like when it goes into the
Mhm,
engine of the boat, was really cool. Like
mhm.
that was kind of like, oh, because you don't think like if doors closed, it's not gonna get in. Then it like rolls up, and you're like, oh, nope, never mind. Okay,
Yeah.
it can come in.
Right.
Um, I
It
definitely
doesn't
enjoyed a lot of the fog, but
it doesn't take a physical, like, it's not like you see Blake open the hatch and like gut the engine. It's cool that it's strictly the fog snapping power lines, by the way, also. Like it knows there's like an
yeah,
intelligence to it, right? So it knows to cut the
yeah, it
power.
has a presence for sure.
Yeah. I think that's adds to it.
One of the effects that I didn't necessarily like, it wasn't that scary. It's not that I didn't like it, but when they would like reach their hands into the window or around something and kind of just like it
Scooby-Doo.
was very like
Haunted house.
theme park haunted house. Like I'm
Yeah,
scaring you. Look at my hand.
You bring me to a question I was gonna ask. What do you guys think of the actual physical appearance of the fog? Like the guys, like the fog men. What are your
I
thoughts
mean,
on that?
you can't really
What do
see
you mean?
them.
So like I would say that so I like so when they're in the when they're in the pews, they're all silhouetted, they're all blacked out. I think that that's cool. And Blake's got red eyes. And I
Yes.
think that's a neat
Right.
touch too. I don't
Yes.
really need an explanation for it, but it's fucking cool. But I will agree with you that it loses that element a little bit when you see hands
Mm.
just kind of like zombieing their way through, like reaching and shit. And then when Stevie Wayne's getting attacked on the lighthouse, she hits one or something, and we see like it's fucking green. Like it's kind of Scooby Dooey, like green, like some like
With the worms,
worm shit going
Yeah,
on. And I don't know that I love.
it was more of a corpse and less of a ghost.
Yeah, right. So I don't know that I
yeah.
love that part, but had they gone strictly shroud black,
That would have
whatever
been cool.
silhouette or whatever, I thought that was super super neat. Maybe it would have been cool if they all had red eyes. It seems to just be Blake, but that would be enough. If I were Father Malone, I'd probably just thrown that cross and been like, "We're good now, right? Like you don't, I'm not gonna hold it with you. We don't need a
Thank you
handoff.
later. Yeah.
I'll toss it. Hey Nick, get over here and help me throw this fucking gold out there."
I definitely like the way they looked for sure. Like when they're blacked out and like they're kind of think that's great. But I think it's and Tyler, you might be able to contest this a little bit more. But like, isn't in the remake in 2005? They're actually more. I mean, obviously they're more ghostly, but like you can see them, like right. You see them all in like their ghastly garb and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can definitely tell. You can kind of see their wardrobe a little bit. Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that was an improvement on like the on that like front, or do you think it was better to stay in the dark?
I think more ambiguous was better. I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
it
can see
just to
that.
even like jump into the 2005 version. Uh, One, I don't think it needed to be made. It didn't improve on anything. It was more. There was more going on in the movie, and the movie was a little bit longer. But I was more bored by it. I don't know how that's
Okay.
possible. There was like more action, more stuff going on, more dialogue, more story, but it's just ultimately forgettable. I was just ready for it to be over. I felt like I was just going through the motions, just watching it just to watch it, just to say I had watched it. So for that reason, I don't really remember much of it.
Just check it off your letterbox. Watched it, done.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was talking to my wife about the movie today. She didn't make it very far in before she just decided to take a nap. She was very bored by the movie, and I wonder if that's just something of the times because I feel like a lot of '80s movies are a lot slower. It's a lot more of a like slow build up into like when the action starts happening. Same thing happened when we watched Christine a couple years ago. She fell asleep before it started building up and the good stuff started happening. And me and her are both big readers, and I tried to get her to read Misery a while back, and she kind of bounced off of that as well because Stephen King is too wordy and there was just not a lot going on. And I tried to explain to her, that's just like the atmosphere, the ambiance. Sometimes you got to sit in something to appreciate it. I feel like this movie had a lot of slow elements in the beginning, and it still kept my attention more. I'm trying to remember what point I was trying to make. It still kept my attention more than the 2005 version, which was a lot snappier, a lot quicker. The cameras are clearer. You, the actors are more modern. It just everything about it seems like it should be okay, but it was just ultimately boring. No reason to make it. Didn't improve on anything. You know. What do you
I
guys think?
I remember not. It's a movie that I don't remember rooting for any of the good guys. Like you just don't. They're not likable. Like or not all like
Mm-mm.
most of them. And not that everybody in the 1980 version is like a it's not showing anybody in their day job or being like a good guy or whatever. But you can at least like want them to live. I had the feeling with the 2005 when I was like, kill them all. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
kill them
Yeah. Who
all.
cares?
Just do it. Take Superman. Take it. Take Selma Blair. Take the rest of the. I don't remember who else in that fucking movie anymore. I just remember being super let down both times I
Yeah.
watched it. Unnecessary.
There's no reason to even go back and watch it. Carpenter was a producer on that, right?
I believe so, but I
Probably.
don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just like he had his name on it, or if it was like he was actually a participant. Because it sounds like a
Right,
lot
right.
of the
How much
stuff.
did he actually have to do with it? Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of the stuff of his that gets like rework or like messed with at all. He's kind of just like, yeah, you can put my name on it, but I'm not gonna be like on set or anything. He almost seems like he just doesn't care. He's kind of like, yeah, go ahead and if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But I don't
He
have to
gets a
be there for you
paycheck.
to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I also understood him to
So
be very open to anybody wanting to remake his properties as long as he gets paid.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm kind of against remakes in general. Unless there's a reason. If is there something you're doing better that wasn't done before?
I think a problem with a lot of the remakes that have graced us in the past couple decades, I think, is mainly due to the fact that like they didn't change much, if anything. It was just like a more contemporary version of the film. Most remakes are kind of like that, unfortunately. Some kind of take the daring edge and like try to change some things and make it a little different, or to I don't know, like switch it up to entice other people. But it definitely some of the remakes get kind of stuck there. And unfortunately, I feel like this it's the same with the Fog remake. When I watched it, it was boring. When the first set of kills started getting in on the ship, the seagrass or whatever, it didn't feel as eerie as before. So it didn't draw me in. And then, like Tyler said, it just got boring. And then I think the thing that really got me the most, that really irritated me the most, was when they turned Elizabeth Dane into a woman, like they reincarnated her
Yeah,
Mm.
into a woman, and I was like,
hated that.
especially when Maggie Grace, right?
Yeah, I had to think about it. But
When
yeah, I agree.
she decides to, oh yeah, I am the reincarnated love of this dude, of Blake, and then
Yeah,
she
yeah.
turns into a ghost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know what
The ending
happened
was
there.
so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't pretend to get it. I don't want to get it. It can stay back at 2005, 20 years ago. It's fine.
It just seems like there's no way to win when you do a remake because either you don't change anything and it's like, what's the point? Or you change too much and then people that like the original aren't happy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
But if it was good enough the first time, just watch the first one again.
I feel like if you're gonna change something, change it just enough to be different, but not so much that it goes off the rails. And I feel like a lot of the time, some of the studio heads and directors think that like that's kind of what they need to like branch themselves away from the original. It just tanks.
Right.
It's weird to think about that. That's a remake, and it's still 20 years old now.
Yeah, we're almost as far from the remake as the remake was from the original.
Ooh, man, yeah. When you say it like that, that's tough.
It's about 5 years. 5 years from now, it'll be exactly the case. Just a couple other things that I really liked. I really liked the shot where we're looking through the camera through the front of the truck. Just that one single shot. You know what I'm talking about, right? When he picks up Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, like
Yeah, it's like
out the
it's like
windshield?
over his shoulder, but it's it's all right
Yeah,
out the front
through
window.
the front windshield. It's kind of lit up a little bit in the truck, and then he pulls past her, and then it's got the red lights from the tail light as she's coming up to get in the car. I felt like that was really good. I felt like the cinematography was amazing
Yeah, the
for
camera
most
work
of
is
this movie.
great.
What's Dean
It's
Dean
really
Cunyon?
great.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, he's a name that carries some weight, and I don't have all that info in front of me, but yeah, when I saw it, I was like, I know that name, and I know that he's got some shit under his belt. So it's cool that you mentioned that because I kind of blanked on it, but yeah, you are right.
I used to watch this YouTube channel. It was called Every Frame a Painting, and it talked about like cinematography and that kind of stuff. And it really felt like that saying every frame a painting really makes sense in this movie. Like you could pause it at almost any time, and it like what's on screen is visually appealing.
That's
You
cool.
know, they did it in that widescreen Panavision or whatever, which really added to the production quality for being such a low budget movie. Like another shot that I remember really liking was when he's handing over the cross, and like they both have a hold of the cross, and then the light shining up at the father.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I really enjoyed that
holy
as well,
aura
and I
there.
I just feel like the
Yeah, the
lighting, the
illumination.
colors, the framing, everything about this movie, like every single shot felt intentional. It felt like a lot of love went into the movie. Maybe they should have cut out some of the plot holes or explained a little bit more, but I really liked the appearance of the movie. Visually, it was good.
Deborah Hill is the other writer on this, who is an ex-girlfriend of John Carpenter's, but a frequent writer with him, and it's
Collaborator.
crazy like that these two have so much notable shit in their partnership, which is super super cool. Even if everything's not like a seamless A to B explanation of things, but they were, Halloween being one of them. Um, I guess I don't have all their shit in front of me either of all their partner stuff, but I know that they've got several stuff, and that's cool, man. Like it worked. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're Nick and you're the hitchhiker, or if you're picking up a hitchhiker, what a lucky dude to pick up somebody good looking and then you end up taking home and sleeping with before you even find her name.
Dude, the 80s. The 80s, what a trip.
What a
Like, the fact that
crazy.
they didn't know either each other's names before they even got like, they're done with poise coitus, lying in bed, smoking a cigarette pretty much, being like,
Yeah.
"That's great. What's your name again?" Like,
Looking at
it
some
was kinda like,
Titanic.
"Wow, okay, you guys just moved." Yeah. I definitely I like those 2 interaction. That was pretty cool. Like, oddly enough, except for Adrian Barbeau, except for unless you count Andy, they all kinda have, like, a pairing. So, Nick Castle and Jamie Lee Curtis are doing their little investigation with the Seagrass and those guys. Then you have Janet Leigh and her assistant kind of, dealing with Father Malone, all his nonsense. So, like, even with the cast and what we got and everything else, it definitely kinda shows that with what they were given and the people they were given, they made it work, which is very telling and awesome. That's another one of the highlights, I think, because like not only does it just have all his alums, but everyone that he usually has in like a lot of his movies, like was it Charles Cyphers comes back a lot. The dude who's looking out the window and he's like, "There's no fog bank out there." Like he's in almost every one of his films.
Yeah.
Always play great characters, and I definitely feel like he always makes the right decision when doing that because they always do a good job. They always give it 110%. It's not like Rob Zombie bringing his people in and being like, "All right, I want you to play, these people," and they just play the same people they play every time.
Mm-hmm.
You do bring up an interesting point. I read when we talk about the cast, I read that Father Malone's character, that role was originally offered to Christopher Lee, who
That's what I heard. Yeah.
was either unavailable or something. So that would have been interesting. And then I read Kurt Russell was offered a role, and I imagine it has to be Nick Castle's role.
Yeah,
There doesn't
I
I
seem
would
think
to
think
so.
so. Yeah.
there's no prominent male figure that he could take over. But that also would have been a weird bit because I guess he hadn't worked with Kurt Russell yet. They hadn't teamed up on anything yet, right? So
No, they
that
Escape
partner
from New York, I think, would be next.
that partnership, yeah, would just be getting started. But that would have been cool. And then they go on to make The Thing, which is another movie that would be sweet to cover on here because it is fucking amazing.
Yeah, the thing. I definitely want to with
Yeah,
this
let's
segments. I definitely want to go forward with some of that, especially that one, because
yeah,
that
let's
one's definitely.
talk about the segment for a second. Are you planning on doing every single Carpenter movie?
I'm not planning on doing every single Carpenter movie, just kind of whatever fits the bill at the time. Like, since we're coming into October, we might focus on like a lot of his horror stuff, but then
I,
afterwards we can do some of his other stuff. But
I thought it was interesting you picked The Fog over Halloween or The Thing.
well, originally Chris told me that he was going to do Halloween for the end of the month, so I was like, all right, no problem. We'll just do The Fog. And personally, and I know it might be a hot take, Nick, chillax. All right, just calm down. It's going to be fine. But I like The Fog more than Halloween. But I think it's just I don't know, like a more faster pace type of horror movie. I'm kind of like more akin to, but
I'd
I
have
put
to
this above Halloween.
I'd have to see Halloween again. After looking through his catalog, I'm excited to watch some of these again. Um, Halloween, obviously, The Thing,
Yeah,
Christine. I definitely want to be a part of the Christine episode. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I love Christine. I've done the audiobook twice now.
That movie is awesome.
Uh,
yeah. One of the better Stephen King adaptations, actually.
yeah, I'm not as excited for the non-horror movies, but I'm gonna watch them either way. Even if I'm not on that episode, I plan on watching the movie so I can keep up with the episodes. Are there any specifically that you're going to exclude?
Any you don't want to cover?
I probably I really want to do Big Trouble in Little China. I definitely want to do The Thing. Probably Escape from New York.
Now he does do the sequel, correct?
They Live, maybe,
Oh,
but yeah, he did a sequel to Escape from L.A. for that one.
we can
He
skip
worked
that.
on the first 3 Halloween movies.
In a lesser
But I also
capacity,
thought about
because he doesn't direct either of those.
no, he just kind of steamrolled it and pushed it going.
He does do
Or
the
got it
score
going.
though for both of them, which and even Halloween 3 not being a traditional Halloween film, Halloween 3's score is awesome.
Yeah. He does a stellar work all the
I think
time
it's him
when
and
he does his movies.
Alan Howarth, I think is the other credit
I believe
on
so,
the score, and
because
it's awesome.
did he get the only solo credit for Halloween 2 as well?
I
I thought it might have been somebody else too.
I yeah, that's a good question. I guess I don't know because I know it's Rick Rosenthal, right, that took over directing duties.
Yeah, he took over directing duties for the second movie.
Rad, good movie.
Interesting. On
I kn-
one little final thing I wanted to ask you guys, this one particular question: who would win in a fight, the fog or the mist?
I was wondering if this was going to come up. I mean, it seems like an obvious answer to me.
Yeah,
I'm
well, I
ashamed
mean,
to say I haven't seen The Mist.
oh man,
Are you going to cover it on your Inked frame?
It's a Stephen King, right?
yeah,
It's a novella, and even the audiobook's only like 12 hours or something. It's pretty quick.
yeah, it's pretty
I
short.
I have a lot of Stephen King ones I want to cover before I would get to that. So I don't know. Depends on how long the segment goes. Because I'm definitely planning on doing Misery, The Body, also known as Stand By Me. Maybe Shawshank Redemption. Christine will do probably for Carpenter Hour, unless you want to do like a crossover. Because I'm going to read the book either way. But I don't know. There's so many good. Oh, The Shining. I know Chris has never seen or read The Shining, so I want to do that one. I want to make him read it.
I'd be interested to hear
That'd
your
be
take
cool.
on The Mist because I do like the movie, and the audiobook is good. And they're pretty. It's not. They don't drift too far apart, other than
Yeah, they're pretty faithful.
Well, if we ever cover the movie, I'll read the book anyway. I'll do the audiobook.
I
Because I
was
can knock
actually
out an audiobook pretty quick.
going to suggest this, Tyler, Phantoms by Dean Koontz. What do you think?
I've never read a Dean Koontz book, so that would actually be a good opportunity to dive into one.
It's the only one I did do, and I only did it because after I watched the movie, I was like, I want to do the book, and I listened to the audiobook. I had to dig for it and get the files back out on my computer because I didn't get a chance to finish it, but I got majority of the way through it, and it was good.
Hmm.
But
I'll definitely consider it
all right,
because
dope.
I'm making a list of
movie.
ones I want to cover. I think American Psycho's
Look.
next, but
Look, you're just jealous because Affleck was in it and he was the bomb. All right, so you shut it.
Whoa, I like Ben Affleck, but the movie
Yeah,
was like fell off on that. I watched it on the
Phantom's good,
Halloween,
man.
like I think 2 years ago, and I was like, wish I had that time back.
Most definitely.
so before we get out of here, I noticed during my viewing last night that So usually what we like to do is give people an alternative to the box office, right? Give you somewhere to watch this movie that isn't $20 a ticket and $30 for popcorn and drinks and stuff. This was on Amazon. That's where I watched it.
Okay.
It's leaving Amazon in 7 days.
Ooh.
And I think they're doing it because it's going to be spooky season. It's Halloween. You know, we're recording this a week in advance, so when this comes out, it'll be October. I think they're just doing it so people got to rent it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it used to be the holidays would come up and you'd be like, ooh, what Christmas movies can I watch? What Halloween movies can I watch? And now I feel like the streaming services have all caught on to that. And then as soon as it comes to be in a specific season that you'd want to watch a movie, they pull it down so you got to rent it.
The paywall feature on streaming apps, especially when it comes to seasonal movies, pisses me off to no end. So I own the Fog. I have the collector's edition Blu-ray, which is how I watched it. But I bitched about what you're talking about over the years a lot across Halloween and I probably Thanksgiving, but also Christmas. That pisses
Right.
me off that they like enact the pay feature right when everybody wants to get down on that shit.
Not only that, but on Amazon, I pay for Amazon Prime. I had to watch it with ads.
Yeah,
And I
what are we-
told you I was doing it like run and gun, where I would just watch a little bit at a time for the second viewing. If I let the app sit idle for too long, I had to watch the ads again before I could continue where I left off.
Ugh. It's brutal, man.
All right, guys. So wrapping up, any final thoughts or want to do ratings? What do we think?
Let's rate it. Let's put a bow on it.
All righty. Derek, you
Well,
want to go first?
I'll go first. Being it's nostalgic significance enough to me and everything else, and the great love that I have for it and John Carpenter, I'm gonna give it an 8.
That's
Pretty fair, I think.
I think that's solid. I will echo the sentiment. I've seen this movie a ton, and despite the holes we put in it, super cool idea. With despite not answering all the questions one might have viewing it, I am also going to land on an 8. This movie takes me back. I watch it a lot. It's awesome. It's a cool ride.
Awesome, man. Cool.
Yeah. Hate to sound like a broken record here, but I think I might also give it an 8. This was my first
Yeah.
viewing of the movie,
Solid, man.
and despite, like you said, all the plot holes and just silly choices with the script and the storyline, I think that the atmosphere and the music and everything else about it, I think really elevates it and brings it to an 8. I think if the story was a little more solid, it'd be a little bit higher, but
That's
Yeah.
fair.
definitely a great movie. I was pleasantly surprised, and I can't wait to check out some more of John Carpenter's stuff.
I was really glad to hear your opinion on it being a first time view, because I was wondering if we were going to clash on this, but that's really good to hear. And I think for any Carpenter fan, if you haven't seen this, put it on your watch list.
Yeah.
And especially given we talked about it, the run he had there those few years, like gels seamlessly with those couple of movies. So check this out. Put this on your watch list. Give it a
Yeah,
go.
you want to watch it during like spooky season? It's good for it. Puts you
Perfect.
straight in the vibe. So definitely worth the watch. If you have nothing else, I definitely want to say just, if the viewers are liking what they're seeing and they're enjoying what they're hearing as well, like, share, subscribe, rate us. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Anything really helps. So we'll definitely enjoy seeing you on the next episode for sure. And always remember, think outside the box office.
I don't know what happened to Antonio Bay tonight. Something came out of the fog and tried to destroy us. In one moment, it vanished. But if this has been anything but a nightmare, and if we don't wake up to find ourselves safe in our beds, it could come again. To the ships at sea who can hear my voice, look across the water into the darkness. Look for the fog.
So before we get going, this is the 2005 Fog, right?
Don't do that to me.
No, for the love of God, no.
I told Chris I was going to mess with you guys.